Good morning. Welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Eitan Berger. Today, we are focusing on the Pretoria Jewish community. On Yom Kippur 1891, in the presence of over 100 worshippers, Mr. D.M. Kish delivered an address in the center of Pretoria, expressing the need to purchase a Sefer Torah in order to cater for the growing Jewish community. At that time, there were close to 700 Jewish souls. With the generosity of Lithuanian immigrant Sammy Marks, not only was a Torah acquired, but in October 1897, construction began on the first synagogue in Pretoria, located on Paul Kruger Street.
I was involved from the age of 12 in the community. We had a very, very strong youth movement in Pretoria in the 50s, late 40s and 50s. At one stage, I think we had 350 members. And we've always been a very progressive and united community.
I went to services at the shul in Paul Kruger Street, which was then an active shul. And I was a member as a youngster of the Habonim movement, Hastilim movement, and then generally Zionist youth organizations.
In those days, it was the Pretoria United Hebrew Congregation. I started going in the 50s to the Paul Kruger Street Shul. What I can remember of the Paul Kruger Street Shul was Yom HaAtzmaut, the first Yom HaAtzmaut of Israel in 1948. I was a member of Habonim, and Israel was declared on the 14th of May, and at 12 o'clock that night, they had a big ceremony and a big service in the shul. That I remember very clearly. I can remember on occasions on Yom Tovim in those days, this was the 50s and 60s, you couldn't get a seat on Yom Tov. They put chairs in the aisles, and it used to be packed.
The shul that I used to go to was in town. It was for the older Lithuanian community. They were all the characters you can think of. They were the jokers, and they used to speak Yiddish, and it was a tremendous warmth. To attend a function there was just wonderful.
When they originally came to Pretoria, most of the Jews lived in the area where that shul is built, and that shul didn't serve the needs of the community because people had moved far away, and problems of walking on Shabbat and on religious Jewish holidays and so on. So it was decided to sell the shul.
And then they built in 1951, they built the new shul in Pretoria Street. It was a big, beautiful shul, and that was our shul.
Pretoria used to be very vibrant. There was always something going on. At the big shul, the great synagogue, as they called it, Pretoria Street, called the Weizmann Center. Everything happened at the Weizmann Center. On a Thursday, the Women's Zionist League had a little tea room where they served coffee and wonderful sandwiches, and everybody used to come on a Thursday morning to have coffee and sandwiches.
It was a lovely shul, very attractive, and very, very well populated in the early days until the community started dwindling, when it was sold.
We moved to Carmel School. We used the hall as a shul, and then finally they built this as the population was moving further.
Growing up, they started becoming professionals, doctors and lawyers and accountants and architects, and the families decided to move away from that area to what they call the eastern side of Pretoria. And the eastern side of Pretoria was then the hub of the Jewish community.
Sammy Marks played a very big role in this community.
He was very generous to the Jewish community in the early days of the days in Pretoria, and helped them build the Miriam Marks School. named after his daughter Miriam, in a suburb called Arcadia, where today there stands a development of offices, flats, and shops. And that development belongs to the Pretoria Hebrew congregation.
The community, when it first built the synagogue in Paul Kruger Street, they didn't have enough money to complete the shul. And Sammy Marks lent them the money to complete the shul on condition that they never ever ran into trouble building a synagogue again. So wherever we built the synagogue, we had to have the money to build the shul. And the clause remained right to this synagogue. We had to have the money. And I think that the Sammy Marks clause, as we called it in those days, has now run its course and doesn't need to be exercised anymore.
As with all Jewish communities, Pretoria has seen its fair share of migrations from one area to another. This challenge has resulted in the Pretoria Hebrew congregation constantly innovating and thinking of bold programs to not only retain its membership, but also encouraging Jewish families to move to Pretoria.
When they moved out of the previous campus and they moved to here, they did it in such a way that the main communal organizations would actually function out of our campus. So that therefore includes the IUA, it includes also the Chevra Kadisha welfare offices, WITA offices, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, the Pretoria branch offices. All of those are incorporated within our single campus. It's just, it all works part and parcel of the familial nature of it.
This is a community centre, and it's a pleasure that everything that happens in the community, a lot of it happens right here. So you don't feel that it's just a shul, where it's only religion.
It's a community that is so diverse. And we have the shul, obviously, and all the shiurim that go on. Together we have the kindergarten, school that is integrated in some measure with also our needs vis-a-vis the community. The old age home, which I'm privileged to be involved with as well. Coupled with that was a community that had a vision for the future and was willing to make a bold decision, take bold steps in order to ensure that the community would not simply survive, but would in actual fact thrive. We obviously have the synagogue and its activities and all the classes and the shiurim, most of which will take place on this campus. And then obviously all communal activities that will take place. So for example, tonight it's Lag BaOmer, so we're going to be having a big function, so the kitchen is dealing with that. And that's open to the entire community. Pretty much the entire community is the people that are members of our shul.
There is no age gap in this community. If you come to any event or any function, you will see the old and the young mixing, the older children with the younger children. The youngsters love going to Jaffa and interacting with the elderly. It's quite a phenomenal, unique situation.
It's a lovely community, very vibrant, everybody's very friendly, and everybody pulls together in unity, and there is a very strong Jewish feeling and Jewish ethos within the community.
I've always been pretty involved in community activities. For the last 15 odd years, I've been covering stories at the different organizations for the Jewish Report, and occasionally I cover it for the Chronicle. I've started as a regular feature called The Spotlight on members of the community and their achievements, highlighting to leave a record of who was in the community and what they did, whether it was in communal life or in business.
We came from Australia, and we really were so taken by the community. First of all, the warmth of the community, that it's not just a shul, but there's a real sense of family, a sense of co-shared responsibility. So that was something which was stood out right away. The warmth and the sense of hospitality and of homeliness that exists within this community is something that's quite remarkable. We're not just a shul, we're a community. And as a result, the PHC becomes not just simply the seat of communal, of synagogue activities, but the seat in many ways of much of the communal activities.
This is Ghanaian Nursery School. We have children here from the Pretoria Jewish community. We have 4 different age groups. We start from 1 year old and we go up to 6 years old, which is grade R, where we prepare them for school. And they're divided into 4 different groups according to those ages.
We now find ourselves where the kindergarten is at the largest state it's been for quite some time now. And we also want to invest in creating a good kindergarten to keep those people here and to hopefully be a viable option for, at the very least, young children, families with young children to be able to come here.
Today's a very special happy day. Do you know what it is? Lag BaOmer.
We do a mix of secular and Jewish studies. So in the Jewish studies side, we're teaching them how to daven, we're teaching them about the Chagim, the Jewish holidays, and we're also teaching them the Parsha each week, which is the Bible or Torah portion that we are learning about in a week. And then on the secular side, we do the normal things like the different themes, me, my home, my body, animals. At the moment, we're learning about fire. And what we try and do is we link the themes. So in the secular, we're learning about fire. In the Jewish side, we're learning about Lag BaOmer, which is the festival where we remember Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Akiva, and we light a big bonfire. So the children learn fire safety before they go and enjoy the evening with their parents around the big bonfire. So we link the themes in these ways.
One of the outstanding character traits of this community is that really it is entirely self-contained. So we have our own Chevra Kedisha, which is not only a burial society, but also a social welfare society as well. And then we have an old age home that is absolutely fabulous.
Do you know what this is? Beetroot.
In the early 80s, a group of younger members of our community, people in their 40s and early 50s, got together and investigated the feasibility of establishing a home in the future for the Jewish aged of Pretoria. It took a long time. The investigation took 4 years, various subcommittees, and a lot of work and planning went into it. And today we've got this lovely home, which has been in existence now for 26 years. We've got approximately 85 residents. We tend to think that this is the best home, Jewish home in South Africa. I don't know if everybody will agree with us.
We are so fortunate to have a beautiful place like Jaffa, as old people here in Pretoria. I can only speak very highly of everything at Jaffa. The food, well, you can see by looking at me, the food and the service, and everybody is so friendly, and to me this is the place to stay in.
We've been residents here now for 2.5 years. We moved in at a little bit earlier age than some of our residents. My wife wasn't well, and we found it to be a blessing to be able to live here at Jaffa. And we're very happy. We live a contented and good life. We mix with who we want to, and it's a private life also.
They only want to help you. We've got constant entertainment, and if one needs to go anywhere, there are buses to take you. And I can only say that this is about the best place in South Africa.
Jaffa alters accommodation to suit the requirements of their residents. And those who can't afford it, we subsidize. But we've got fundraising activities, and we've got various trusts but we're always short of money, like every home in South Africa.
I'm privileged, first of all, to give a weekly class there, also sit on the committee as well, but it's very much all part and parcel of just another element within this magnificent family, which is the Jewish community of Pretoria. Here in Pretoria, we have a lot of Torah study that takes place. So we invest in the yeshiva, which is part and parcel of our campus, which also means that there's never a quiet moment at the PHC. You can come to us any time of day, any day of the week, 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and there's something happening, there's activity, which itself is just such an elixir of life for anybody that wants to avail themselves of that. The yeshiva is an investment which we as a community make and the PHC make because we believe that it's critical for us to invest in something that hopefully can bring a dynamism to the community and bring thriving to the community. The boys themselves also interact and have shiurim and have private lessons together with members of the community. So in that way, we're exceptionally vibrant and dynamic. We have a daily morning class immediately following the morning prayers. We have a kollel evening on a Monday night, which is basically an evening where there will be different classes being run concurrently for different interests. The wife of Reb Aryeh Levine, who was known as the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim, gave an explanation in which she said there is a Thursday morning ladies only shir, which I give. Reb Dali gives an afternoon shir on a Thursday afternoon. And then there's private classes that Rabbi Medali, myself, and the Bochum will learn with members of the community just to either pique their interest in Jewish learning or alternatively to introduce them to either ideas or just to scholarship. What's most important really in Jewish scholarship is being inquisitive. Judaism, per force, is a whole state of questioning and answers. The entire Talmud is deliberations back and forth. Now we want to empower the people and to really whet their appetite for a recognition of the depth to which their questions can be addressed and answered, which is the beauty of Yiddishkeit. The texts that as ancient as they are so relevant and so practical even to a very modern and a very changing society as the times in which we find ourselves. So those are ongoing shiurim that take place on a weekly basis, and I think we're very blessed that Torah study is such a central part, not only of the shul, but of the community as well.
Beit Menorah, Pretoria's progressive Jewish movement, was founded on Rosh Hashanah 1950. Services were first held in rented premises in Hatfield until the Bronkhorst Street buildings were completed in 1953. Temple Menorah moved to its current location in Bailey's Makoniak in 1994.
I was the architect who designed the shul and conceptualized the whole concept of what is here. The artwork that you see here, the tapestries as such, were designed by Lena Blum, and she did all the work as well. Each one has a story of its own, and the way that it has been conceived also is very reminiscent of each and every festival that we have. Each tapestry, the talit, is represented in different ways, really, but there's a common thread right throughout. Like everywhere in Pretoria, the numbers have decreased, and today Menorah consists of 125 souls, and its members participate in the community as a whole, and not only in the Jewish community, but the community at large as well.
They support nursery schools, and they do wonderful work for the outside community. And with Jaffa, they're very involved also and do marvelous work there.
When I arrived in Pretoria, there were 1,280 Jewish families. That is 6,000 souls.
It's just sad to see that we've now decreased in numbers, but we carry on, and we're strong. We're still strong.
There are, I would say, a maximum of 280 to 300 families, that's all, and perhaps 500 people, 500 souls, of which the average age is over 60.
Although today it's a small community, our institutions are well run. We've got an RUA UCF, which is very successful in Pretoria, and our organizations have diminished. We used to have, I think, about 30, 40 different organizations. Today we've probably got about 20.
Our biggest difficulty that we confront here in Pretoria is just the demographic issue. Jews are unfortunately a migrant people. We're always migrating from one place to another. I think in Pretoria we felt it to a very large degree. And the attempts, and quite bold attempts, to try and bring young couples here are constantly on the burner trying to see what can be done, but it's quite a challenge.
My wish for this community is that young families from out of Pretoria move here, and it's the most wonderful place to bring up small children and bring this back to a younger community, and it should continue to grow.
I honestly believe that the PHC, with everything that we provide, is at the forefront of a vision for the future. Not just how do we maintain it, not just how do we ensure that there still remains a vibrancy and a vitality to our community, but what can we endeavor to do to inject life into it? Not just remain on life support, but actually just to continue to thrive and be a dynamic community.
That's all we have time for this week's episode of Simcha. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us. If you'd like to be in touch, please find us on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions and drop us a line. From myself, Eitan Berger, and the whole team here at Simcha, have a great week and goodbye.